Exactly 1 minute remaining. Throw. Looking for a man down the sideline and picked off. Oh, dropped by Jaquan Wilkins, but that's a turnover on downs. And Johnson C. Smith looks like they will get out of here with the win over Winston-Salem State after over 20 years of losing to the Rams. Exactly 1 minute remaining.
You better go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the D2 HBCU football show, where D2 HBCU football matters. Just watching the end of the Johnson C. Smith Winston-Salem State game. Johnson C. Smith has ended a 21 game winning streak. I think it's a longer winning streak year-wise than that against losing streak to Winston-Salem State. Chris, I think the Rams finally drove me to drinking.
We welcome you. We welcome you.
Yeah. So with that being said, Chris, man, how are you feeling today, man? How's everything going in your world?
I mean, it's craziness of life as always. The win or lose, nothing says football like just taking. It's a great escape from life, right? I mean, yeah, Winston State lost, okay, but in the end, it's still great watch football games. The end of the season is upon us, so we soak it in while we still can.
Gotcha. Well, the last time Johnson C. Smith did come out with a 35-31 win. I started to go to Charlotte. Something told me not to go, and I'm thankful for that. I went to another game. Got a chance. Shout out to Allen and Edward Waters, and really enjoyed that game. But Chris, what were you doing back in 1996, man?
1996. I had just moved to North Carolina. And that was 5th grade.
Yeah. I didn't know what Winston-Salem State was.
I didn't either.
So here we are.
Gateway computers.
Right. We barely had this new thing called the internet. Right. So with that being said, we got a full show. We're not just going to wallow in our sorrows here. We do have someone who actually has something to play for this weekend and maybe potentially, hopefully, he hopes for the next couple weeks in advance, that we want to go ahead and not waste any time and bring him up here. He is Dr. Alvin Parker. He is the head coach of Virginia Union University, and his Panthers are currently 8-1 as we head into the final week of the regular season, taking on those guys from the other side of 95. Virginia State. Coach, I want to welcome you. Welcome to the D2 HBCU football show. And how you feeling today?
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, no doubt. We really appreciate you for hopping on for sure. Obviously Chris and I follow, everything you guys got going on up there at Richmond. Just you guys are here. It's the last week of the season. Obviously, as a coach, you guys, every week, want to know. You don't look too far ahead. We get it, but it's finally here. You get to go against your arch rivals in a game that, the stakes really couldn't be any higher.
Absolutely. It's nothing really to talk about. I think you plan for this. You wanted to kind of come down to something of this magnitude. And with it being a rival, it makes it even more intense. But we prepared for this moment. Since we finished the season last year, to make sure that we're in position, to play for a championship and try to play for postseason.
Chris, I'll let you go first, and then I'll follow up behind you.
All right, so we're gonna start the show off a little bit more exciting. First of all, I would like for you to say something nice about the rival.
26 miles apart. I played in this thing 4 years, and I don't think it had this type of a meaning to it. I split this series 2-2, back in my day. So it was, it's just that, you can put any rival up against it. All of the rivals that are going to be probably played this weekend, all the ones going to be played later in the season. And I bet you this one, stacks up just as high or better than either one of those. So it's not a lot to say about it, championship implications, that's the biggest thing in it. But bragging rights, we recruit a lot of the same kids. And I just think it speaks volume into how, the type of ball that's played in Virginia and the surrounding areas around here that, we get down to this point where two teams are 8-1 heading into this last week of the season playing for a position in the championship. So, it's not a lot to say. I think, Coach Fraser does a great job down there with his team. And I knew when he took the job, last year that he was going to put together some championship type, product down there to make sure that, he had his team kind of ready to be in this position. And we've done the same thing over the last few years. So, just doesn't get any bigger than this.
Yeah. Coach Parker, you guys had a really great season last year, 9-2. You go down, you beat Valdosta State. You guys had a really tight game against Fayetteville State, and came out on top there in Cumberland County. You guys are rolling, and then you hit a snag in the season. You guys don't go to the championship, but you get to the playoffs, and then the first taste of the playoffs for you guys in a long time. Just talk about, I know everyone's focused on the next game and just this year, but just talk about last year again, a 9-2 season for you guys. But I could tell it felt like you guys left a lot on the table, it seemed.
Yeah, so we kind of used that as fire to go into this season, and we talked a lot about finishing. That's kind of been our motto around here to make sure we finish. Finish the day, finish practice, finish everything, finish games, finish the season. I think last year we got to a late game in the season. I think it was week 9 last year. We went into that game 8-0, and we dropped it. So we put ourselves in a position where we had to try to get help from other people and do things like that just to have a shot at the championship. Now, at this point in the season, everything is in our own hands. I think you can't ask for anything better than that. To have a chance to just go out there and win it and put yourself in position for what's next, and it all is in your hands. So. We're excited about that, but last year was kind of last year. I think we did great, and we've been rolling, since I've been here. I felt like, but last year was probably our best season in terms of just, putting it all together in terms of the win column. But, now, it all comes down to Saturday.
So Coach, one of the things that kind of stands out in your season is that one loss that y'all had to Fayetteville State in less than ideal conditions. Talk about how your team has responded ever since that game to get to where you are right now.
I think the sour part about that is that our team was kind of judged on playing a game in a tropical storm. When a lot of games were rearranged that weekend and a lot of things were done different, we had to play. So I think games like that do build character and do some things like that. But they were less than ideal conditions to be playing football in. I couldn't even see across the field for most of that game, So it was one of those type of games. But, Fayetteville had to play in the same conditions that we had to play in. But like I said, I think we were judged a lot off of that game. And Fayetteville played a great game, and our kids battled as well, but we lost, but it was kind of a reset. But I didn't see any of the guys, turn away from the mission or turn away from the goal. Those guys showed up the next day ready to be coached and ready for what was next. So they took it upon themselves to make sure, they dedicated the rest of the season, putting in the 1-0 mentality every week and making sure we did everything we had to do to be in this position that we are now.
Again, guys, we're talking to Coach Dr. Alvin Parker, coach of Virginia Union University. They're 8-1 heading into an 8-1 Virginia State team that they'll welcome into historic Hovey Stadium. I believe they're calling now, since it's no longer a field, it's turf. I guess it's field turf. Just talk to us, Coach, about, talk to us, everybody coming into the season, everybody's, we had you guys number 1 on our poll. Everybody obviously knows about Jada, just the fabulous season that he put up last year. But, you've been very, always complimentary of Jada and, and you've made it clear that you guys have a stable of backs, and a lot of times, sometimes coaches like to get into coach speak, and coaches say stuff, and it's like, and you're like, oh yeah, I agree, but then like in your head, you're like, yeah, right. But you guys proved this year that that's no fluke. Like, obviously, there's only one Jada Byers, but you talk about Rashard and some of those other guys that you have. Just talk about being able to showcase your program and the depth of your program at a position where it's hard. It's not always easy to find a good running back in 2023, but you guys continue to seem to stack them up.
I think the first part in terms of it, goes into recruiting. We've recruited some great guys, but that isn't easy, because anytime people see that you have an All-American back there that kind of does what Jada does, people don't really want to play alongside that or behind it. So that's the first portion. You got to get guys that want to buy into the system of what you're doing, to know, what, hey, you're going to get a chance. And although Jada is the headliner most of the time, you're going to get your opportunity. So I think guys like Curtis Allen, Rashad Jackson, and all those guys have stepped up this year, and it's not like we did not know what they could do. We know those guys were featured backs as well. They could be a feature back, and when Jada went down, those guys showed it. I think, the next 2 to 3 weeks, those guys 200, almost another 200-yard game, almost another 200-yard game in terms of, what they can do when they get the opportunity to be the feature, but it just speaks volume about our team. We have a lot of great guys on offense that can make plays. And I've been saying that, since, the beginning of the season, because I kind of knew it. I seen it firsthand. But I'm just proud of the way those guys have stepped up and those guys have played in that room, and, we have some guys on the outside that can make plays as well.
And I think we've seen that, right? I mean, we've seen some wide receivers really, truly step up and made some really big plays. I want to talk a little bit about your defense, though, because I know we focus a lot about Jada Byers, and we focus a lot about, what he can do in the deep running back group that you have. But the defensive line in particular, has quite a bit of studs on there. And I want you to talk a little bit about them and what they've been able to accomplish so far this year.
If anybody had the opportunity to see us play this year, I know you both have. You've been able to see guys like Isaac Anderson, Amani Burton, those guys up front, along with Isaiah Dickens and Jockey Hilliard. Just come to play week in and week out. You don't lead the nation in rush defense unless you got some studs up front. And those guys have made it a priority to make sure that they play their best ball, week in and week out. Those guys, I think, carried us the beginning of the season, in terms of what they were doing, in terms of stopping offenses, making offenses one-dimensional, and just being ready to play week in and week out. But we've done some things on defense that, have really amazed me. I think we lead the league in interceptions. You look around, you see, this guy with 3 interceptions, this guy with 4, this guy with 3, this guy with 4. So those guys on the back end have did their job as well, and it's just been a total defensive effort over there. All of those guys have played well. Those guys on the second level, those backers we have with Shamar Graham and Jabril Norman, those guys have done an excellent job. And again, that just talks about when I told you guys earlier in the season that we have a bunch of playmakers on that side of the ball too. So, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah. Again, we want to thank Coach Dr. Alvin Parker for hopping on with us. They got a big game again on Saturday, hosting Virginia State University. The winner will be going to the CIAA championship game. Coach, I know you were part of that program as a player and now as a coach. Virginia Union has a very storied history, probably them and Winston-Salem State as far as current teams that are currently in the CIAA, as well as Virginia State, probably the most history. But, you guys haven't won a championship since 2001. What would it mean for you? Obviously, you got to get through this game, but what would it mean for you guys? Because I know you said it was one of your goals at the beginning of the year to bring that CIAA championship home to Richmond and to have to go through, your arch rival, and then obviously waiting on the other end for the winner is going to be the defending champion. Just talk about what that would mean for you guys. And then, as we finish up here.
It'll be something big, for the university, because I think it's been a whole, you don't get to this point unless you had the support from the university, So I think, it's something big for the university as well. I was here in 2001 when we won that last championship down Bowman Gray Stadium against Winston-Salem, So I know the feeling. I know, what it brings to the university. I know the excitement that the university have. And they made a total commitment to football here. And, we owe it to them. We've had support, since I've been here. The answer is always yes. When we're trying to get some things done. And I think it takes that if you want to put yourself at the championship level. So, we owe that to the university, to the community, to the guys that, play, for Virginia Union. You talk about the history, the support that those guys give us. I get a call almost every single day, from a guy that was on that 2001 team or somebody that supported us back then, talking about, how much they have our back. They're excited about what we're doing. And they're ready for another championship to come to Virginia Union. So, again, playing here, coaching here early in my career, knowing, how everybody value the program around these parts, it would do my heart nothing better than to just get us to the championship and have a chance to win it.
Awesome. Well, again, this is Coach Dr. Alvin Parker of Virginia Union. They got a big game against Virginia State. So, every moment counts from here on in because, again, they are in the playoffs already. So we're going to go ahead and let Dr. Parker go. But we really appreciate you. Good luck and everything you're doing. Your program has been outstanding. Continue to excel and, may the best school in Virginia, CIAA school in Virginia, win on Saturday.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys again.
See you, Coach.
All right. That was Dr. Alvin Parker, the head coach at Virginia Union University, 8-1. Now, the next gentleman we're going to bring up is going to be on the other side of that rivalry. He is the voice of Virginia State University, one of our favorite folks to talk with in the CIAA landscape. He's always got an interesting perspective and a witty remark. And I'm selling it short even by calling it that. But we'll welcome Mr. John Emitt to the D2 HBCU Football Matters. John, what's going on? How you doing, man?
Good, gentlemen. How are you? Excited to be here.
Man, we are excited to have you, the man, the myth, the legend. And I say that with the utmost affection. You definitely have been the voice of Virginia State University and a keen observer in the CIAA. Just talk to us about your journey to becoming how you became the voice of Virginia State University.
Well, like most people in this space, I started out in minor league hockey. I actually came to Richmond to be an NHL broadcaster. I was with the old Renegades of the East Coast League. Obviously, that didn't really work out. I wound up with the Richmond Braves AAA baseball team. They moved to Atlanta at a really kind of awkward personal time. And during that summer, I was kind of casting about for what might be next. And Sean Robertson, who was my predecessor here at VSU and who's done a lot of great things at Channel 6 here in Richmond since, I actually hired him to join us on the Braves broadcasts. And about that time, he got some television opportunities. And I pulled him aside one night and said, "Hey, what's going on down at VSU?" And he put me in touch with Judy Marchand-Hampton, who was the provost at the time. The radio station was actually operated at that point by the provost's office. And I met with Judy 16 years ago, and here I am.
Awesome. Yeah. Great story there for sure. I'll let Chris go next and then I'll come back.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that if you've ever heard me on radio, it's with this man. And what a treat it was. And anybody who's listened to any VSU games have had the privilege of listening to some of the wittiest remarks and colorful way to describe plays. And I don't know how you do it, because sometimes you actually call games without a color commentator, and it is a masterclass.
Well, it's a lot more fun when you're there. Actually, it's a lot more fun when anybody's there, but we're still trying to work through some personnel issues here. But I think I've got one with me for Saturday. So I've had 5 this year, and I've had games that I've been solo. So that's been a little nutty, but the product has been awesome, and it's really been fun this year.
Yeah, and the one thing I kind of want to ask is about Virginia State. We saw a couple weeks ago where they had a disastrous loss, very surprising loss, and kind of just want to get your take on, how do they compare that game to what we saw last week and just bouncing back and what they did to Lincoln.
Well, I think DNA checks would be in order because it was two completely different football teams. And full credit to Elizabeth City State. You can talk about the extra point, you can talk about the onside kick, and yeah, there were some escape hatches for VSU at the end of that game. But the bottom line is Elizabeth City won that game at the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball, and nobody outside of Elizabeth City State thought that was possible. Vikings went out, played a great inspired football game, had a great game plan, executed it, and our guys, for whatever reason, just weren't able to answer the bell. And there's some things on offense going on with injuries and personnel, but really at the end of the day, no excuses. Lost that game, period. But the guys took it the right way. Coach Frazier talks a lot about responding. Things that happen are supposed to happen. It's how you respond. And our guys went out Saturday, and particularly offensively, because I know they were a little bit embarrassed. They went out and responded with an absolutely flawless effort. I'm not sure if any of that applies to this coming game, but it was a masterclass to watch. Jordan was outstanding. The offensive line, which they took that personally, and they got theirs back. It was just a remarkable show. And Lincoln's a pretty good football team. They still need some more pieces defensively, but they're not bad. And they're the first team to score 4 offensive touchdowns against Virginia State this year.
Wow. Great insight there. And, John, you've been there for 16 years, so you've seen the program through some ups and downs. Obviously, Coach Scott, you guys, the program's had some ups and downs. You guys have been to some championships and then you were down a little bit. Coach Scott came in and got you guys back up in the saddle, in football. And then Coach Barlow comes in and Trent Cannon era. Just tell me some of the games that you stand out to you. I would think some of those maybe those rivalry games with Bowie State, but just some of your favorite plays before we some of your favorite games before we get back to the VUU VSU conversation.
Well, we had that 7-year run with Bowie that just featured absurd win after absurd win. And it started with a homecoming goal line stand. Okay, that's fairly normal. And then there was the 50-yard Jared Battle touchdown pass with less than a minute to go on a day when our guys turned the ball over 6 times in the second half and won with a bomb basically at the buzzer. That was fairly nutty. And then came the punt snap game where Bowie mistimed the clock a little bit, and their guys snapped a punt about 60 yards, and we fell on it and scored a touchdown on the next play. And if that wasn't nutty enough, came the quadruple overtime homecoming nationally televised game. It just got wackier and wackier. And then the wacky kind of trended Bowie's way, the 51-44, where they scored a defensive PAT and ran a kickoff back for a touchdown. So that rivalry just for almost a decade, it just got more and more absurd every year. And I was just like, the last couple of those, I was wondering, okay, when do the space aliens land? And will they allow me to stay on Earth? Because that was really the only thing that didn't happen. And then, the 2014 championship win over Winston-Salem State, that was remarkable. The guy that engineered that final drive was a guy that played like one other game in his Virginia State career. And
we remember.
Oh, yeah.
We remember.
And that was, there's some other stuff that went on. I really thought it was an incredible job by Coach Scott and his staff, but I also thought that Winston-Salem kind of hamstrung themselves a little bit. And if they had just handed the keys to Phillip Sims, who I still think is the best quarterback I've seen in this league in 16 years, that none of that stuff might have mattered. But, that was obviously a pretty fun day. We've been blessed. I mean, it's been a really nice run. There have been a couple of, 3 and 4 win seasons, but, overall, top to bottom, 15 years of consistently 6, 7, 8, 9 wins and having stuff to play for in November. There's a whole lot of folks who would take what Virginia State's had over the last decade and a half.
You just had to bring up Rudy Johnson. You just had to bring it up, John.
Well, I know I'm stepping in on that one. That was a monumental turning point. I mean, not so much for our program. We just kind of did what we did, but for Winston-Salem State, can really, and there's all kinds of layers to it. And some of that I really wouldn't want to address without a lawyer present. Things I've heard, it's just. But for us, it was fun. It was football. For Winston-Salem State, they're still trying to get all that stuff back in the pile, and they have all the pieces. And at some point, they're going to fit.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate the encouragement, but no, you're right. And I see breaking down the Bulldog says better than Amir. This guy's delusional. Look, I love Amir. Amir was great, but Phillip Sims was a five-star prospect for a reason, right? He only had one season, and he shared the quarterback duties that season. So anyway, but a lot of great players and great memories. Chris, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go next, and then we'll end with a classic of its own, hopefully.
Yeah, I think my favorite VSU moments have been.
Amir was
Okay, I think we lost John for just a second, but I think he's coming back. Okay, so you were going to explain the Amir Phillip Sims.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, Amir was the best 4-year quarterback in this league, and that's hands down, not even close. Powell from Livingstone had a really nice run, and we're watching, the maturation of Isaiah Freeman. But let's remember, Phillip Sims, when he got his NFL shot, I still don't understand why he didn't stick on. I remember watching a preseason game with the Arizona Cardinals, and he marched his guys right down the field and scored. And, nothing but respect for Amir Hall because he put plenty on VSU, but for 1 year, for the things he was able to do, Phillip Sims was really special.
Memories of what might have been. Chris, go ahead.
Well, I mean, my question surrounds this week, and talking about from the Virginia State perspective, what really stands out as sort of like keys to the game for VSU as they kind of, I think they're probably like a slight underdog in this game, if I'm thinking about this right. But I'm just kind of curious. This is one of the hottest games in Division II. And we say that even from the national show that I also am a host on. What are we looking for out of Virginia State going into this game?
Well, there's a couple of things to watch. Our offensive line's been a little bit banged up, and Union is so physical on both sides of the ball and so consistent and so talented. The challenge will be, I think if our guys were 100% healthy, this would be a world-class chair fight. You'd have two great defensive lines, two great offensive lines really getting at it. But our guys have been a little bit nicked up on the offensive side, so there's going to be some challenges there. The other piece is special teams where, we've had some calamities over with Lincoln. Things went really well for the most part, and we've had some decent games. But Union is just so efficient, so good, so consistent, and our guys have had some wild card moments on special teams. So I think being able to stand up and control the run is going to be a challenge. Being able to give our guys a little bit of space because we're not going to be 100% at running back is going to be key. But the huge piece for me will be the kicking game, where Union, they have two excellent kickers. They have excellent return people. Operationally, they've been extremely sound all year. And then, for Virginia State, it's been kind of up and down a little bit. We have an excellent punter. Place kicking, there might be a little bit of a challenge this week to see who takes that job. We've gotten better at the snap piece, but still have to really be consistent, protecting the punter and making sure that we cover kickoffs and punts. And that might be the area of the game to really watch, is who can avoid calamity in the kicking game.
All right, guys, as a great insight as always, and we'll get you out of here with this. We had to pull one of our favorite calls from the archives. Chris, I think you know about this, and you can, John, you can walk me through this afterwards. But one of the all-time great calls in the middle of the games, because again, you keep everyone updated, and this is just my favorite moment. So,
Chowan 21, Winston-Salem State nothing, and then the other game is it's 28-0. That game was 28-0. Now it's 49-0 at halftime. Good grief. Chowan leads Winston-Salem State. This apparently is not a typo. This is the official Twitter account of Chowan Athletics. They're up 49-0 at the break against Winston-Salem State.
Oh man. We have
that was fun. My internet was refreshing, and every time it refreshed, the score jumped like 2 touchdowns, and I was wondering if there was anything real in the world anymore. Chowan was just kind of starting to get to that level, but I just what? That still boggles my mind. That was just raw. You gotta be kidding me. What is this?
That was payback.
I was afraid to refresh it anymore. I thought if I hit that button one more time, it'd be like 110 and I'd get hauled out by the guys in the white coats.
Not quite. They stopped at 70, I think. Was it 70 or 73, Chris?
It was like 73.
Yeah. So anyway, John, like I said, we really appreciate you for hopping on. I know we asked you to do this last minute, and I appreciate you for doing that. But we appreciate you and your talents. Again, not only does John call football, but he also calls basketball. And I believe your son is on the lacrosse team as well, right?
Yes, he is. So we're going to get some lacrosse on the air this spring, and I'll be completely unbiased and calling it right down the middle.
Gotcha.
I'm probably going to have to be seat belted for that. I can't even watch him without having issues. So putting a mic on me, we might hear from the FCC before it's over. But I'm excited about it.
Gotcha. Well, again, guys, he's a VSU voice. Make sure you guys give him a follow on Twitter as well. He's really great on there too, at VSU_voice. And he'll be on the call from Hovey Stadium. If they can find, he'll be there somewhere. If they have to sit him on top of the press box, which might actually happen.
I've been there before.
He'll be there.
I love Hovey, by the way. It's my favorite place to call a game. You're right on top of it. It's a great view.
It's one of a kind for sure. Even as they've got turf. So, thankfully you won't get any dirt in your eyes calling the game these days. So there's that. Appreciate you again, John, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Well, thank you, fellas. Appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And look, all right, so break it down to Bulldogs. Look, again, we love Amir. I personally love Amir. Amir's my guy. I saw him at the CIAA Media Day earlier this year. Dapped him up. Super proud of him. Awesome career. He's the number 1 CIAA quarterback of all time in career. But there's a case, and you want to pull numbers. Let's see how many you throw for when you split time all season as a quarterback. That was 15-1. They don't make up for themselves. But anyway, great insight there from John. And Chris, we will be joined by the third member of the crew, Kendrick. He'll be hopping on soon, and we will go ahead and get into it. We'll do a little quick banter on this week, and then we'll get straight into last week, and we'll get it straight into this week. So let's see here. Kendrick, what's going on? How you doing, brother?
What's going on? Listen, y'all got the fresh cuts and going on over here. Okay, I see it. Y'all wait the next week when we get ready to go to that championship game. I'm gonna be fresh too.
Well, look, it's my birthday. My dad told me, he was like, "Yo, get it together." So your dad tells you to get it together, you get it together. So yeah, man. But talk to me. Well, I'll talk. So this week I actually I skipped over a CIAA game. I intuitively skipped over the Winston-Salem State Johnson C. Smith game, and I went on down to Columbia, South Carolina. Blythewood to actually be correct. And I witnessed the win for Allen University over Edward Waters University. You know, we talked about it last week. Edward Waters came in super hot. Allen University, you know, had a couple stumbles here and there, but they were coming on strong. And man, David Wright, you know, he carved them up, and you know, there was no miracle comeback for them. Just talk about, you know, what you saw, Kendrick, out of that game.
Allen University and Edward Waters University are like the two Stewart programs. They brought a lot of energy to the SIAC this year because they racked up some good wins. But if you follow them, you know, last season, Allen, they played Tuskegee close. They played a lot of teams close. And I think it was just a lot of questions around that program. You know, could their offensive line make a step? Could their defense as a whole make a step? You know, I mean, you have to acknowledge that they have L.C. Cole on that staff. Coach Keaton himself is a winner. So when you start looking at Edward Waters, and Edward Waters has Brian Jenkins on the staff, and you know his success at Bethune-Cookman. You start talking about putting these coaches that have coached at a certain level, they have a certain level of experience and a certain level of wisdom, you know, whether or not things went as well as it should at other programs. So, you know, people learn, and they just have those programs rolling right now. So it was really good to see them play. But as far as the game play, Allen and Edward Waters, you know, both of them have really potent offenses. But when you're off, you're just off. And Edward Waters was just clearly off that day, and you can't be off with another team that's gonna sling it around the field the way that Allen does.
Right. And I know you talked about Coach Keaton. I got a clip here that I'm going to play because a very great moment with him. We talked with him earlier this year about building his program, and I came across a very great moment that I wanted to make sure that I captured while I was there. So we are going. Man, what was that about?
That's my guys that started this program with me. They played 4 years with me. They didn't get a chance to be there with Waters. This young group came along, and they've been doing what they needed to do. I'm proud of those young men, man. I'm proud of them. Man, this is a feel surreal moment. 7 wins. To get the trophy back, and they ain't never had it in 40-some years, that's big, and I'm proud of my kids, man. Thank you, guys, man. Thank you.
As he walks off into the sunset with that Anita Baker playing, I'm sorry, I just had to drop that, Kobe. I know you're going to cuss me out later, and I know I deserve it. I will take it because I literally just thought about it. So, you know, yeah, again, Coach Keaton, I think he might have been was he our first guest? It's been so long ago. He's probably right up there. You know, just, you know, again, just to see him build that program and take that from, you know, nothing to where they are now, which is 7 wins. You know, counting the Columbus State win. I know, Kendrick, you've talked about that win, but that is 7 wins from nothing to 7, and they're taking on Allen, and they're taking on Benedict. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But then we will go on the other side of that. On the other side of that, we had game Chris and I had to react to a little bit earlier. On the other end, you talk about a program ascending and a program trying not to flatline. We'll go ahead and play this other clip, Kobe, of Winston-Salem State. They did take the loss to Johnson C. Smith for the first time since Chris and I were in elementary school.
If you look at our roster, we got a lot of guys returning. You know, we're having this conversation. I'll share this with you. It's not an excuse, it's a reality. We had 2 starting offensive linemen. They played in 1 game. ACLs. We lost Trevor Willard. He played in 3 games. Gillette missed 2 or 3. Tater missed 2 or 3. These are guys that were starters for us, guys that we depended on. So it's not an excuse, it's a reality. So again, when you have scholarship allotment, when you have a guy like Gillette go down, now you can bring in another guy with his ability or better to replace him. But when you have now walk-ons, the talent level is probably going to be a little different.
Yeah. So that was Coach Massey explaining, because I did talk to him about Johnson C. Smith again beat Winston-Salem State for the first time since 1996.
Bro, I'm about to leave.
Hey man, look, man, we don't let me suffer alone, Chris. You know, we joke about this, but you know, Kendrick always talks about certain programs you don't lose to. And again, much respect to Coach Flowers and what he's doing over there at that program. You know, and there's no disrespect to them. They've got a full allotment of 36 scholarships, is what I asked Coach Massey about, because WSSU is nowhere near that. Let's be honest. St. Aug has, you know, more scholarships than Winston-Salem State does, and Fayetteville State has a full allotment of scholarships. So, you know, gone are the days where you could just roll out the mat and, you know, pump out your chest and say you're WSSU and beat these guys even over at Livingstone. And I know, Kendrick, you talk about, you know, the program and the stated program. I think you talked about the same thing over at Tuskegee, where it's like, you know, once you're on that mountain for so long, you know, folks are going to try to catch up, and you can't keep doing the same thing anymore. But Chris, you know, your thoughts on this game and Johnson C. Smith, their emergence as well. I'd be curious.
Well, what I would say to that is I was not very surprised at the offensive output that Winston-Salem State was able to put up. You know, I wrote in my column that, you know, they have been the most productive offense in the Southern Division. So I wasn't surprised by that. The concern I had was on defense, that they seem to kind of allow teams to sort of bully them around quite a bit. I mean, Winston State does have flashes on defense, but what you kind of saw was it kind of just felt like John C. Smith took a playbook out of what Livingstone was able to do, which was, you know, kind of extend plays enough and use a mobile quarterback when necessary, get to the edges when necessary with the running backs. And John C. Smith has those guys, you know, Tim Newman Jr., the Newman brothers. And also, you know, extending out plays allows them to see if they can get receivers free. And you kind of saw that with like Reggie Bryant, for example. So I just also special teams. If you think about the great runs that Winston State had, the one Achilles heel was special teams, and it definitely showed up when Curitan was able to run the ball back. When they were punting, when Winston State was punting from their own end zone to score. So you also can't excuse, you know, like 3 fumbles, taking, you know, the ball was kind of given away as well. And I just think overall that, you know, John C. Smith, we knew they had this game circled as one of the games to play. There was this one, there was Fayetteville State, and they wanted this game, and you know, all the stars just aligned, and what could go wrong kind of did go wrong. And you know, Winston State tried to persevere, but John C. Smith wanted that game. So it was a great game to watch. You know, it would have been nice to watch this game in person, regardless of the outcome. It was a great game. It really was a great game. Oh, and one other thing, I just want to say one other thing about the whole mountaintop thing. So, you know, I think there's a team in the North that is feeling that right now, that, you know, things coming off that mountaintop a little bit right now. I won't say any names because I know people will be coming for me with pitchforks. But I know that there's somebody who, you know, roots for them that is in the comments. You know who I'm talking about.
Would it rhyme with raking down the Rural Dogs? It's you know, yeah, it's that thing. You know, talked about it even with on the FCS level with North Carolina A&T. It's like a lot of HBCUs have gone to where they only have about a 5-year cycle of dominance, and then either your coach leaves or things go wrong. I know Tuskegee obviously was able to really stay at or near the top of the SIAC for a while, but even Kendrick, in you guys' case, do you find that to be true? It's like, you have a 5-year. It seems like there's like a 5-year window, and then it's hard to stay on top for any longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, you just start to see other schools just, they want a piece of the pie, but then also you got to continue to make the correct hires. You got to continue to put the right people in place, and that was just and Tuskegee went through a period where we were a president, interim, then we hire an interim, then a president, then an interim, then a president, then an interim, and then we made the interim the president. So it was a lot, and there was just a lot going on at the university. But shout out to Tuskegee for being able to persevere through that part, and you kind of see us now. We're going back. Okay, now that the ship is corrected, stable in a way. You see us, starting to look at athletics and say, all right, now let's get back to where Tuskegee, wants to be.
No doubt about it. I see breaking down the Bulldogs 7 straight winning season in a row. Congratulations. That's great. Winston-Salem State had 9, and then we haven't had one since in a while. So not saying the same thing's going to happen, but history says usually fall off once that coach to leave or the changes, and everybody else kind of catches up. So it's going to be interesting for sure, especially since the CIAA continues to seem like they're going to stick with this model that we have. And before we get to this week's games, I think it's important too. And again, Kobe is really going to curse me out again. I just had to live with it. We're going to talk about the SIAC championship game scenarios from HBCUGameDay.com. You guys can go and read it. But basically, in the SIAC, we've got one unbeaten team. We've got Benedict, who is number 1 in their region. Shout out to them. We got to get a golf clap situation going soon. But golf claps to them. They're in the regional rankings as well as Fayetteville State, defending CIAA champion. And guys, they are pretty much in, no matter what happens this week. Even if they lose to Allen, they're in that second spot. Yes, Siri, the second spot. We don't know yet. The second spot, I believe Tuskegee has the edge, sort of, kind of, some way, somehow. Talk to us, Kendrick. I know you guys didn't play a direct, the way the tiebreakers go down. You guys didn't play a conference head-to-head against Albany. I'm sorry, Fort Valley State, but you did play a head-to-head, which is further down the list. So I think if you guys win and Albany State, you guys still get in.
So the head-to-head is number 1 on the list, and then all the way down at the bottom, there's a little asterisk, kind of there that says that head-to-head can count in non-conference game. Now, I'm going to give a whole big spiel about how I feel about this, and I don't want my Tuskegee people to be upset about what I'm about to say. It seems to me that, and I'm pretty sure, because it's Tuskegee, you don't want to piss Tuskegee off if you're the conference, okay? But when I saw that asterisk, it made me say, is Tuskegee and Fort Valley necessarily being penalized by playing each other? Because regardless of whether you say, okay, well, it's a non-conference game, clearly it's counting as a non-conference game. If both of us win Saturday, it will count as a conference game, regardless to whether the asterisk was on it on the schedule or not, because you're using it into who goes to the championship game. And I think that's difficult, because if I was into Fort Valley shoes, which really Fort Valley and Tuskegee, like, their trajectory is really the same. They could have lost to Edward Waters on the last second play when they threw the bomb to the end zone. We lost to Edward Waters in the last second play. Fort Valley could have beaten us in the last second play. With the boy dropped a 76-yard bomb on us with a couple seconds left to go in the game. So they were a play away from beating us, and we were a play away from losing. So we could very well, 2 plays, we could be in Fort Valley's position. And I just think that it's a little difficult to say, okay, well, we play an 8 scheduled conference game, and then this head-to-head that was non-conference, we're going to add it in. So it's just, we could very well be in that position, and I don't want us to ever be in that position, and I'll be really, really upset. So I do understand some of the frustration by Fort Valley fans, but it could all be for naught, because I'm pretty sure the Albany State Rams, and I'm gonna do the Ram Buck for them because I need them to beat Fort Valley. Let's just kill all the noise. Let's just kill it. So everybody get up and do the Ram Buck right now.
Oh man, and we talk about it. So there's a two team tie scenario. Where if two teams are tied, but if those two were both to lose, then we have multiple teams with 2 losses, 3 teams or more with 2 losses. Then it's where it gets a little interesting. Then you've got the combined head-to-head win percentage among tied teams if all teams are common opponents. Then you go to if all tied teams are not common opponents, and we know that Benedict and Tuskegee didn't play each other. But even if that's not the case, you get to however many teams you have with 2 losses in the conference. It gets really interesting. So it looks like if everything goes to plan, if Tuskegee and Albany State handle business, Tuskegee's in there with Benedict. We get a rematch of last year. If Tuskegee falters and Fort Valley wins, much to the chagrin of Kendrick, we would have Fort Valley, Fort Valley and Benedict. And then if both of them lose, we'll just pick up from there. But
anyway, scenario that's not being talked about is what if Allen does what people think is the impossible, and then we both lose? Now that's when it's chaos. I think it's a pretty much right in if Miles loses and Fort Valley wins, or if both of them loses. To me, the way I interpret the rules, it would be Fort Valley. Fort Valley would be in. As long as Tuskegee loses, Fort Valley would be in my opinion. But if Allen beats Benedict, then they don't have to. They have 2 losses, and they have the wins over Albany State. Because the head-to-head would be if Albany State beats Fort Valley, then it'd be these bunch of 2-loss teams, and then it would be whether or not Miles goes or Allen goes. So it can be chaos, but you know what? That's why Tuskegee is in the running. And let me just I see somebody in the comments said we're gonna lose by 14 points. Well, they said Benedict will win the championship game by 14 points. Let's pump our brakes here. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. This is still Tuskegee University, July 4th, 1881. Don't play with us. Don't play with us. And we've been here before. We're not worried about that. If we get Benedict again, if we get them boys again, dog, they don't want to see. They want to see everybody else but us. I'm just telling you that now. See everybody else but us. So y'all just calm down. We're gonna restore order. We allow Edward Waters, Albany State allow Edward Waters to get their signature win, too. But let's just calm down. Tuskegee is still in the building. Tuskegee is still skiing. Whether we, maybe not how we used to ski and just dominate everybody, but hey, it is what it is. We're still racking up wins. Okay. We're still racking up wins. And then I know I did that little talk about Fort Valley and feeling bad. But at the end of the day, I don't feel bad, because we did beat them boys. We beat them boys on national TV. Okay. So let's just keep it real. We beat them boys on national TV. So we'll see. Y'all getting boat raced by Benedict. Well, whoever your team is probably got boat raced by Benedict. we hadn't played Benedict, okay? We hadn't played. Now, we hadn't played Benedict.
Edward has not identified his team. He's here every week. He let us know when we were late. And shout out to Edward. And again, everybody, make sure you guys like the stream. But Edward has not identified his team, I don't think. So let us
He's probably a secret Benedict fan.
Let me find out he went to Clark Atlanta, man. Let me find out he's at Morehouse. He's at one of these teams. He's at one of these schools that are searching for that win. So
and one of them get one Saturday. I'm looking for a double overtime to get a win.
Shout out to Edward. Shout out to Breaking Down the Bulldogs. Shout out to all the guys, Miss Karen, T. Wayne, everybody who's in the comments, man. We appreciate y'all. Go ahead, Chris.
I just wish I could have that much confidence in my team, but every week is perilous over here.
But you know what, Chris? This is just God's punishment. I go back to this. The whole we never ended up season. That day, I met you talking about something. I'll never forget it. I mean, I hold that against you, dog. I ain't even gonna hold you. I hold that against you. You said that you tweeted me. You said, "Oh, I feel like WSSU gonna get their first win." And then I'm like, "Nah, how in the world did this man talking about something? They gonna come down here and beat us?" And I just listen to that man talk in that clip, and you know what? What's like that? Let me call.
It filled your heart, huh? It filled your heart up.
Man, listen, it's just amazing how this thing goes. You know, we'll talk about CAU and then we'll get into this week and then we'll go from there. We'll talk about what's going on in Atlanta. So early in the week there was some rumors, some reports, and you know, heard from a couple different sources that the head coach Gerard Wiltshire, who's in his first season there, he's a Morehouse alumnus. He may be on his way out. You know, we went to him and asked him, and he gave a statement on the website where he said that he's not quitting, and they would have to fire him publicly and for him to go, but he's not planning on leaving, and he hasn't been asked. Morehouse is winless. You know, so far in their last 19 games, I think it is, they have one win. But there is a balm in Gilead, not a bomb as I used to think. And it is in the form of the toothless Clark Atlanta Panthers. You know, Kendrick, you know, we'll talk about the game in a second. I guess we'll kind of roll in this into this week's conversation. Talk to us about this game and just the state of football in the AUC right now. I made a tweet earlier this week. You know, how is it that, you know, Allen and Edward Waters have come in and figured this thing out while Clark Atlanta and Morehouse are on the outside looking in? I would imagine it is a matter of maybe they feel like they don't have to have athletics to be competitive at schools. But you tell me, you're the expert here, so let us know.
Well, I tell you what, I won't say an expert around Morehouse business because them people, they kind of keep their business kind of chained up really tight. Mm-hmm. So the fact that those rumors were circulating, you know, earlier, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, it's almost like when you hear something out of Morehouse and Hampton, you know, you should be like, wait, now who talking too much? Because they don't normally tell their business like that. But you know, in my opinion, when people ask about Morehouse and Clark Atlanta, and even Tuskegee to a certain extent, the ideological standpoints of these universities are really important. And then I don't think people watch the changes in universities. So I knew that Clark Atlanta was going to be a program that wanted to win by the president that they hired. The president came from Miles College and basically made a hire, you know, old Tuskegee defense coordinator, bring him in, Coach Ruffin, and really, you know, turn that program around, a program that hadn't had any success. I think they shot the gun, you know, really fast and just a knee-jerk reaction and pulled in Slater when they got there. But I think this time they're walking it slow. And I really think they're going to get it right this time with whoever they're hiring. You know, there's a lot of rumors about who's going. I won't, you know, get into that. Y'all dig around Twitter and y'all learn a lot. But in Morehouse case, when I talked to Coach Wiltshire early in the year, he seems to be a guy that understands. One of the things that stood out to me from him, he understood the Morehouse brand. That Morehouse didn't, you know, they could go in any living room and recruit because of that M that sits on their chest. And I thought that was really big. But most of the time when you start hearing stuff like that, you gotta know like that's off the field issues. It's the same thing with Coach Slater. You know, a lot of folks like they didn't give him a chance. You know, if you really have a pulse over your program and you know where your program wants to go and you see where everybody else is trending, it doesn't take long. I know everybody loves to talk about these 4 or 5 year bills that used to happen. Listen, we're in 2023. We are in 2024 and 5 year bills. Yeah, we're not doing that. You got a year and a half, 2 years, and folks want to see some progress. Okay. And so I in my opinion, I think Wiltshire might be safe or whatever it is off this field, because if it was really bad, he would be gone already. Because I'll be honest. That response, when I read in the article what his response was, I was like, wait, don't challenge them people like that, bro. Like, wait a minute.
Do you want to be fired? Are you ready?
Like, wait a minute.
Fire me.
Yeah.
Fire me out.
Don't do that, bro. Like, yeah. I mean, it's Morehouse. They gonna roll on without you, bro. Like, no, I mean, they used to losing, so it ain't nothing else to. They used to losing, but at the same time, you do have to understand they got a new AD. You got a new AD, man. And can I just say this? I want schools to follow order of operations. Stop hiring coaches, then hiring ADs, and then us watching these relationships fall apart. Hire an AD first. Let that AD clearly state out their vision for your athletic.
Let them cook. Let the AD cook. Get out of the kitchen.
God, it really just boils.
I'm sorry.
It just gets on my nerve. Like, why are we? I mean, all across this country, and I keep saying it. Now, I'm be really honest. I think that we will continue. Wait a minute. Let me pause because that caught my attention. French will come for roughing. Okay.
Sound like Wilson now. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Catch me outside. Bye out.
But I mean, just stop doing. I think what we look for in ADs need to change. I mean, where we are now, to me, ADs have to have a certain level of understanding of the landscape. When I hear us talk to these ADs, I'm like, every time I hear people question these ADs, I'm like, why are they asking these irrelevant questions? Clearly, these people are not looking at the landscape of athletics. Yeah, it's good to be a personable person. Yeah, it's good to have had some coaching experience, but you need somebody, okay, that can lead and has a vision for your program. Now, I know that a lot of our ADs at, the HBCU, they also got to be able to raise a little money, but they need to be innovative. They need to understand the NIL landscape. They need to, it's a lot of qualities that we need to start looking for in ADs at HBCUs instead of just these guys that got a limp because they used to coach and they don't want to coach no more. Like, we need to cut that out and hire good quality credentialed people to make us competitive in the athletic world as it is today. Not yesterday, not our romanticized ideas about yesterday, but in today's world.
Well, the wise philosopher Slim Charles once said, the thing about the old days, they the old days. Anyway, we'll transition to what's coming up soon. So we talked a little bit about it. Let's start in the CIAA. The commemorative classic, where it all started. Livingstone College, Johnson C. Smith, two programs who they're, you would say they're on the rise. Now Livingstone actually won 4 games last year. This year they're looking to win 5 games, which I think would be the most since they went 5-5 back in 2014, which breaking the Bulldogs, that's actually the same record they had the last time they beat Bowie State, I believe. So just a little bit there for you. But they've taken down, you talk about it, Livingstone, they've taken down Bowie State. It's not as great of a kill as it used to be, but they beat Winston-Salem State for the second year in a row, on the road for the first time since 1998. And they've accumulated some wins. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and they gave Fayetteville State a puncher's chance. You got Johnson C. Smith, similarly, located in Charlotte. I know early in the year we did a story on them where we called him a sleeping HBCU giant. And this year, they have 5 wins in 9 games. So they are, 6 wins. So they are assured of a winning season. They might be representing the CIAA in the bowl game. We'll see. We'll see how things fall out. Them, and I don't know if they have a fan base for that, but there's that. Anyway, commemorative classic, Johnson C. Smith, Livingstone, first HBCU game. Chris, what are your thoughts on this game as both schools are looking to really have seasons where they're going to say this is the year things turn the corner for us?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Let's just hope that they can play a full game this year, because we know that John C. Smith and Livingstone is a very heated rivalry in certainly basketball and football. And we've had incidences where the game hadn't finished because of fist fights and such. So let's just hope that they can play a full game. Let's just start there with low expectations. Now, if we get past that, what you kind of have is really two teams that seem to have, some sense of an identity. Livingstone is known as to be, rather cardiac in nature, and they're not going to fold. And you got John C. Smith, who is equally as perseverant. Now, things to look for in this game. Livingstone, prefers to pass. John C. Smith, they would like to pass, but they've got now a third string quarterback who's, getting some reps, trying to work through some things. And they're probably going to mix it up, probably be a little bit more balanced, I think, than Livingstone's going to be. The difference is going to be on defense, and the difference is also going to be on special teams. And I think in both of those cases, I think John C. Smith has the edge. So, really going to be an exciting game, definitely a game to watch. Certainly not a game that you would just pass up on, low scoring type affair. I think this game is also going to be really, really exciting to watch.
All right, good stuff there. Good stuff there. Both programs, again, seem to be on the rise down there in the 704. We'll start off with Benedict versus Allen. I know you talked a little bit about this earlier, Kendrick, but all right, let's cut to the chase. And I'll say this too. When I went to the game on Saturday, my first game seeing Allen, one of the players said, "Hey, y'all gonna stop calling us underdogs." So I don't know that I ever called them underdogs. I think I'm still catching some residual smoke from Kendrick. But nevertheless, we're a team here. So that's in the backyard. What do you got? What are you thinking about this game? What are your thoughts on this game? And how much of a chance are you giving Allen to pull this upset?
Well, to your to the player that told you that, y'all are the underdogs in this game, okay? Just because you're the underdogs, okay? Embrace it, take it on, okay? Because I'm actually rooting for you, and I know the Benedict people gonna eat me up for that. I'm rooting for you. I don't think you're gonna win, but I'm rooting for you, okay? Like, yeah, I'm really. It's like I went to church Sunday, man, and the pastor preached from a particular passage of scripture that Jesus was talking to Paul and told Paul, Satan desires to have you. He desires to sift you as wheat. But I've prayed for you, and that's how I am with Allen. Benedict wants to destroy you on Saturday, but I'm praying for you. I'm praying for David Wright. I'm praying that you guys go in there and get the win. It's just what it is. With by faith, all things are possible, and that's just where I leave. My hope for Allen. By faith, if they win, they need to just come out and say by faith, okay? Because that's how they gonna do it. If they win Saturday, it's gonna definitely take a miracle from the Lord. But hey,
very fitting for Allen that you're dropping the scriptures.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did just hoist the AME Cup. Hopefully, your prayers are more impactful than mine. For my prayers for demise for certain schools in the last couple of weeks, because those have not been answered. Anyway, we will keep it moving.
Wednesday night Bible study up in here.
Yeah, speaking of Fayetteville State, Winston-Salem State. This game doesn't mean anything in a lot of ways. Well, it doesn't mean anything if you think Fayetteville State doesn't have a chance to get into the playoffs this year. We all know they're 7th. It'll be interesting to see how things fall. But it'll be interesting to see how Fayetteville State plays this game. As far as if they decide to decide to keep their starters and key players in. I mean, we know they're in the past games they've kind of played their starters, and this year, they've been close a lot of times with their starters in. So I don't know that they're necessarily good enough to win without playing their starters. But Chris, what are your thoughts on this game?
No, Fayetteville State is going to have to play their starters now. I mean, because for all the things that we talk about with Winston State, the one thing to consider is that they can put up points. And so Fayetteville State has always shown us that when it's time to put up some points, we're going to find a way. We're going to dig under the couch cushions and find some extra coins, whatever we need to do to put up points on the board. We're going to make it happen. So, this is another interesting game that I just think that, how is Fayetteville State going to respond either by shutting down Winston State's offense or doing enough in the return game to just get over the top barely, like they've done for a number of other games. This is not going to be an easy game. It's just not. But the one thing that we just don't do in Southern Division play is go against Richard Hayes. And that's kind of where we are right now. Fayetteville State has a lot to play for in this game. In addition to bragging rights in a rivalry game, they are the top-rated school in the Division II rankings for Super Region 2. So win out your next 2 games, you're in the playoffs again for the second straight year. Lose to one of these games, and you will be sitting home. You could be Southern Division champs. You could be conference champions. But if you lose on Saturday, you probably are not going to the playoffs. So they got a lot to play for. And I expect, full tilt Fayetteville State football to come out on Saturday. Anything less is unacceptable.
Well, we shall see. Fayetteville, the last win the WSSU had in the series was back in 2018. It was at Fayetteville, another situation where Fayetteville had already clinched, and Winston-Salem State was able to give them an L before they got the L from Bowie, and there were no playoffs for them that year. But Coach Hayes and his guys again have found a way, including last week's. They found offense. They discovered the forward pass, and it seemed like that worked for them. So maybe they've just been playing. I don't know. Maybe they've been playing dead horse on offense all year, but we shall see soon. I think for the WSSU guys, go ahead and one-box me. This hasn't worked out the last couple weeks anyway, but let me go ahead and talk to the guys. So, WSSU, the football team, we had a chance to talk to some of the players, and, they're a fan base that is very vocal. There's certain things we expect to happen and not to happen. Losing to Livingstone, we don't expect to happen. Losing to John C. Smith, we don't expect to happen. Both have happened this year. And the fans have been vocal as they should. But I got a chance to talk to the student athletes and let them know that, while we may not be happy with the results, we definitely appreciate and applaud their efforts, because I think college athletes don't hear that enough in college athletics, especially at the big time level. But I think even at our level, where a lot of these kids are paying their own tuition in some way or shape or form to go there. So, again, to the football squad there, salute you guys for doing your thing. Come on, man. I sat in front of these guys last year at the media day, and man, this defensive end, man, he was talking. He gave all the smoke. I don't have a clip. The gentleman from Greensboro, he gave all the smoke. He was like, I ain't never lost to Winston before. Like, he was like, it is what it is, but he got the extra smoke for you. So you saw what happened last week. Johnson C. Smith, the quarterback, said, the coach wanted to make sure that they felt what it felt like to beat Winston. Right. So, these guys, they don't even feel like that. They feel like they're just going to come and stomp on you. So, it's a great way to end your season, win over 500, get your face back, and see what comes next week. But it's not going to be an easy task. We'll go ahead and put the boxes back up. Let's see. We will go to the SIAC, Albany State, Fort Valley State, the Classic. Now, Kendra, we know what you want to happen. What do you expect to happen in this matchup between in the Fountain City Classic?
I expect Albany State to beat Fort Valley State. Man, so Fort Valley State is an interesting team. I think they have a lot of upside to them. But the big question is Durham going to be back? Durham went down. They didn't play him in the Morehouse game. And my God, they didn't play him in the VUL game. And I mean, did y'all see that score? I saw it. That's not going to be the Albany State. So hopefully that Durham is back to. I would like to see that to be a very competitive game. But Albany State is playing pissed off football right now. I think, I don't know, what happened over there, but Miles came in there and I felt like Mike White was back on the sidelines for Albany State, the way they put a beat down on Miles College Saturday. So I expect them to keep that same, Albany State, to me, I'll be honest, I didn't give them much of a chance to start the season. When I saw them, they look, I don't want to say they look stale, but they look like a team in transition. And they made the quarterback change to Isaiah Knowles. Then they went back to the guy that was there before, Banu, and they just seem to be putting it together down the stretch. Just had that lapse against Edward Waters like we had, and it was just, I feel like sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. But they consistently racked up wins after wins after wins, week after week. So I feel like it'll be interesting, and I just feel like that they will beat Fort Valley State if Durham is not 100%, because Durham is going to need to be 100% to beat Albany State. And I just don't know, coming back off injury. I've seen that Tuskegee with Bryson, just come back injured. Sometimes those quarterbacks they don't look the same when they first come back. So I think that Fort Valley's in a rough position.
Gotcha. Appreciate your expert analysis there. We'll go over to VUU, VSU quickly. Chris, I know we talked about this with Coach Dr. Parker as well as John, but your thoughts on this game? Virginia State coming in, they look like they were world beaters. They lost, excuse me. And then Virginia Union, they took that early L to Fayetteville State. They struggled with Livingstone. There were some times there where you look like, okay, is VUU? What's up with them? But here they are. We finally get this game we've been waiting for at least really a year to get this marquee matchup. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you see it going?
Well, if you think about kind of where these two teams are right now, you have to consider that you've got a VUU team that is got great running game, a serviceable pass game, a pretty stout defensive line to shut down the run, and a relatively strong secondary. And you've got a Virginia State team that's got a really good passing game, a serviceable run game, and a defense, especially secondary, that really can put up a no-fly zone. So you've got all of these sort of like, it's a bit of a Frankenstein in terms of the way these two teams are built. There are things that do well, there are things that don't do well. I'm really curious to see a couple of things. How much the VUU defensive line can disrupt the pass game, for one. I am also looking at special teams, where, to me, I think Virginia Union has a decisive edge in the kicking game in particular. And so, it's I don't know if this game is really going to be truly that high scoring, but I'm just really looking forward to seeing whether a Virginia State team that, is an underdog, does have injuries that they've been working through for much of the season, can they, make things happen and return to the championship game for the first time since 2017. So a really exciting game. This is definitely one of the Division II football games of the week for sure.
So who you pick, Chris?
I think VU is going to take this one.
Virginia Union?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say this. I've been peeping over at CIAA land. Just peeping. And I really don't want VUU to win. And this is why. I need Virginia State to win. And the reason why I need Virginia State to win because I feel like Virginia State is they better team when you start talking about the playoffs. And at this time, it's like I don't need VUU in the playoffs. We already seen. I mean, what about this VUU team? Seems like they're more in a better position to be competitive in the playoff this year. I don't see that. So I think Virginia State is a more of a wholesome team, a more whole team to be a little bit more competitive. And we may get that top because I mean I feel like Virginia State should win the CIAA. So we may get that. I mean, because let's be honest, the Super Region 2 is not as strong as it once was. Okay, this particular season. This may be the year we can get a top SIAC and top CIAA in a playoff matchup. And that's what I want to see. So I need y'all to start rooting for Virginia State. Now, y'all don't need that one-dimensional Virginia Union beating Virginia State. No.
The problem I have with VSU right now is injuries. And I really do think that the line play is really suspect right now. Is really rickety right now. So to me, I don't think it's going to be high scoring because of that. You know, we talk about VUU and I think they've gotten a little better in the past game, but it's just not. It's suspect. But for VSU, I mean, they make things so adventurous, and I don't know. I get it. I agree. A full strength VSU is scary, but they're just not full strength right now.
Give us our week 0 game so we can have a little time, so we can have weeks that we can get better, get guys back. So coaches like Coach Mass at Winston-Salem won't be on, the video talking about, well, we're injured and, because we go from on the depth chart, we go from the starter to a walk-on. So, hey.
Bruh, really? Oh, my gosh.
But he did beat Tuskegee, so I can't say nothing, No,
I mean that whole thing of like going. I mean, clearly they're trying to build, and whatever we want to say about Winston State, they got 4 wins. That is an improvement from last year. I'll give them that. You got a much better offense. I've said year in and year out, the line to get to in scoring in the CIAA is 20. If you can get over 20 points a game, you got a good shot at winning. What we didn't account for is how the defense has just regressed so badly. And that's what's gotten them in trouble. Hot water time and time again. Nonetheless, what I would just say is, hey, we're talking about the top 2 teams in the CIAA right now. We're talking about a third one in Fayetteville State. That's your 1, 2, and 3 right now.
But not even right now. No, not even right now, Ferg. I mean, from the beginning of the season, you looked at them and be like, okay, this is VSU and VUU conference. I mean, yeah. Tomorrow, yesterday, the next day.
Well, people didn't know about VSU. I thought VSU would be where they are, and I think a lot of folks were just like, I don't know, and think of what Bowie was like the runner-up in the preseason poll. I'm just saying. I think that VSU was kind of that sleeping giant, and here they are, So now you got one of these teams will go to the playoffs. One of these teams will go to the Beach Bowl, and one of them will be sitting home. Which one?
And shout out to the Beach Bowl. They got a sponsor, a multi-year sponsor. So, look like the game is coming together.
Looks legit. I want to get back hating on Fayetteville State. Big Wash, talk to me, bro. Like, I mean, what have they done to convince us that they can win a playoff game? Let's be real. And that's no disrespect. Last year, every year they got to Salem. I saw it. They folded against the better team. Last year, they came out. They got it. They exercised those demons. They were so excited. Nobody was thinking about the playoffs. Then we got a game to play. And then they proceeded to not score. I mean, I'm sorry. In the CIAA, I don't know, in the CIAA, if you're the champion, you're expected to at least be competitive with whatever team you play against. And granted, they were playing a really good Delta State program, but they got smidacked, and then this year they start off with two teams, a UNC Pembroke team that's okay, but they lost to them, and then they lost to a really good Lenore Ryan team. So those are the level of teams that they're going to be facing if they do make the playoffs. So until they prove to us that they can beat one of these teams, I mean, they celebrated beating UNC Pembroke last year, but Pembroke wasn't that great, So until they show us,
UNCP is 63 this year, though.
But I'm talking about last year, right?
Oh, well, last year, yeah, absolutely.
Right. That was their breakthrough win. So they gotta come up, especially Team 36 scholarships. Got to show us something. Until they show us something, they are the CIAA champions. They are running the South. But until they show us, they got to get in the playoffs to show us. They got to win these next two, see what happens.
Let's face it, we are resting on the SIAC for a playoff win this year. We ain't got the juice this year. I just don't see it. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Chris says it. Who might argue?
That's my doom. That's my doom alert for the night.
Oh man, you didn't give us that bold. Go ahead and tell them again, Chris.
The CIAA ain't got the juice in the playoffs this year. We got to lean on the SIAC for help. Y'all got to hold it down this year. We don't carry the lunch pail for some years now. It's on y'all. We tagging you in, tag team.
And you don't got Tuskegee to do it. So Benedict, it was nice. It was cute. Y'all got those, that undefeated season last year. But come on now, y'all can't get that number 1 seed 2 years in a row and fumble the bag. So look.
Now, let me say this about the playoffs. Benedict, hear me good, because y'all gonna have to see us in the playoff after we whoop Miles Saturday. Y'all might as well just go ahead and give up the championship game, because the history is there. Tuskegee did better in the playoffs when we missed the championship game. Okay, when we just didn't go, and teams with losing records played in the SIAC championship. That week off gave us a lot of rest. We was able to go in and get a team. Pretty much y'all are in for championship game. Rest your starters. You won the SIAC championship last year. Don't worry about it. Go win in the playoffs. Now, for me, to be honest with you, I think this is the opportunity that Kentucky State game was a measuring stick for me, for Benedict, because you saw Kentucky State play Grand Valley. I wasn't expecting Benedict to hang 60 plus points on Kentucky State. But what I was looking at, I wanted to see them dominate Kentucky State the way that, in a manner that Grand Valley State dominated Kentucky State. And when they came out and did it, I said, okay, I want to see Benedict get hit in the mouth. Miles hit them in the mouth. They're down with like a minute some left. They come back and win the game. Okay, they get tested early because they were leading at halftime in that Miles game, like 21-3, whatever the score was. I want to see them get hit in the mouth early. How do they respond early? Savannah State was punching right back with them boys. It's 10-10, 17-17. And then they come back and they make the adjustments. So I think this Benedict team is really poised to make a SIAC, Division II playoff run. However, use your tight ends in playoff play, please. Use your tight ends, man. It is the one equalizer. If you go back, I think we need to have a conference of all the HBCU coaches to look at the films and the way that these teams beat us in the playoff when we get to the playoff. Their tight ends don't even have catches the whole season, and then they play us. They go off and have a record-breaking game, a season outbreak game, because they know we don't play the tight ends. They know we don't defend well the tight ends. Use your tight ends. Why do you have them on the roster? You're not going to use them. Use them. And you know, that's my little spiel on that.
Shout out to Wingate, the 2022 HBCU national champions.
No, we ain't crowning them for that now. We ain't crowning them for that now. You let them stay with that. I don't know why nobody ain't tried to pull the plug on, pull the trigger on their defensive coordinator in all this time.
And they haven't lost to a HBCU, man, since 2012, man. That's like 18-0. We got it. That's, to my point, somebody got to step up and win. I mean, so We shall see. I'm gonna Kendrick quickly your analysis on the you guys game versus Miles, and then we're gonna bring this to a halt. It's been great conversation, but we want to save stuff for championship week. So,
it's gonna be a really hard game for Tuskegee. It's gonna be a really hard game for Miles because outside the records and whatever, it's a rivalry game. Tuskegee and Miles, we have exploded into one of the best Division II rivalries that's out there. And for those who don't know the history, Miles was some school that just, you scheduled them for homecoming if you believe in that philosophy. And then they got Coach Reginald Ruffin, who was an essential part of Tuskegee's dominance for so long, being defensive coordinator under Coach Slater, and he was there for a little while under Coach Cummings as well. He takes over that team, and it was more so like the student has passed the teacher, because then they start whooping up on us like we stole something. And then, Tuskegee plotted, and Ruffin, came to Tuskegee after they gave Coach Slater the boot or whatever, however you want to word it. So there is a lot of connections. There's a lot of, history there, recent history there that's made that a really big rivalry. So throw the records out, throw whatever happened, because those teams are going to play really hard. The guys from Miles, they want to beat Tuskegee, and the guys from Tuskegee want to beat Miles. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I know Klein Peter went out for concussion protocol against Albany State, so he should be good to go Saturday. And so I look to see Miles, really try to come back and bounce back from what I said, an embarrassing loss last week. But they got them Golden Boys. And one thing about Tuskegee, we gonna show up, whether we win or not, we're gonna show up. So I look to see that place jam-packed Saturday night, and it's gonna be a good game.
Whether sunny or gray, they will be there. And I appreciate you guys for rocking with us, man. We're gonna go ahead and end the show on that note. So much great football. Make sure you guys go out, get a chance to watch it in person. If you can't watch it in person, make sure you catch it on television. A lot of great ways to do it. Make sure you follow these guys at D2K Ferg, at HBCU Football, as well as make sure you guys like the stream if you haven't, and share it as well. Next week will be championship week, so we'll talk about that. We'll see what kind of guests we have this coming up and go from there. So appreciate you guys. Have a good one. For myself and the rest of the crew, we're going to let Big Cove, shout out to him, our producer. We're going to let him go to sleep. He's been over here, filing his taxes and cooking dinner and making his wine while we're and keeping this thing running smooth. So big shout out to him.
And happy birthday, Steven. We didn't sing you the birthday song. Happy birthday.
Couple hours, man. I'm trying to keep the hairline, but those Rams, man, they're trying to snatch it off.
They trying to throw Braves in there.